Drumline, 2002 coming-of-age teen comedy. Directed by Charles Stone III, written by Tina Gordon Chisholm and Sean Sheps, and inspired by the life story of one Dallas Austin. The film follows a young drummer from New York, played by Nick Cannon, who enters the fictional Atlanta A&T University and bumps heads with the leader of his new school's drum section, played by Leonard Roberts, and the band leader, Orlando Jones, and strikes up a bit of a romance with a young Zoe Saldana. This film, that was also produced, of course, by Dallas Austin, received generally positive reviews upon its release in 2002, and grossed $58 million on a $20 million budget, and would go on to spawn a sequel, a direct-to-video sequel, and was Vincent's selection for this stop on the Micheaux mission. Vincent, what say you of Drumline?
I think Drumline very quickly, certainly within 2 or 3 years, and that's conservatively within 2 or 3 years of it coming out, became almost this blue chip black film.
Mm-hmm.
Like it very quickly kind of entered into the canon of black films that you had to watch. And I think the thing I love, one of the many things that I enjoy about Drumline, is that this is the type of film that I don't think gets released in the theaters anymore. It's just a really solid comfort food film. As you said, Nick Cannon plays this drummer, goes to this fictional university, and deals with some challenges as he becomes a drummer in the university. There are a couple of subplots, and there is a lot of footage of bands.
Big band.
But it's not a real plot-heavy film.
No.
Like this film is in many ways almost an exploration and, dare I say, celebration of the HBCU marching band, more than it's interested in putting forward this great plot. I think as far as the performances, you called out some people. I think this is a film with solid performances and what I've always seen as a film with a couple of secret weapons. I think outside going in, I think the first real secret weapon is Jason Weaver.
Okay.
Jason Weaver, who plays
Ernest,
who is one of Devin, which is Nick Cannon's character's friends. Like they have this roommate. They have this crew of freshmen who have gone into the band. And Jason Weaver is an actor that I've always liked. You know, he shows up here and there. I think the last time we saw Jason Weaver was probably in ATL. And he's a young actor that, I think famously he made some money off of The Lion King. So I don't know if Jason Weaver has had to hustle and work as much as his contemporaries, which is too bad because he's a nice little actor. And one of the things that I like about Drumline is you have these situations going on the side of Devin's journey that are interesting enough to hold a whole subplot.
Right.
So we find out that Jason Weaver's character is in the midst of pledging a band fraternity. And we get these wonderful little comedic moments where he has, this sort of physical performance where he's trying to keep it hidden and he has to hurry and be places.
Yeah.
And, he's great as
Ernest.
You have, and I just lost his name.
Which one?
Who plays who plays Leonard Roberts.
Oh,
Leonard Roberts,
yeah.
who plays Devin's main adversary.
Yes, the villain of the movie.
The section leader, Sean Taylor. Yes. Leonard Roberts, always solid.
Very.
Always solid. I think he embodies this older student who you would think who bumps heads with this young kind of brusque prodigy. Like, it makes complete sense. And frankly, I think he has this great chemistry
with Nick Cannon.
So much so that if there is, I'm not going to say a misstep, but if there is a cast member that I don't think is utilized as well as they should be, it would be Zoe Saldana, who plays the love interests.
Right.
That frankly doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like Devin is a freshman. I think she's a junior.
Yeah, I think we're playing her.
She's like one of the head girls in the band. She's in the sorority, a cheerleader. Well, I don't know if she's a
you're right, right. It's the band, right.
Right. She's in this sorority. Like, there's really nothing about their social standing on campus that says, I want this person to be my boyfriend.
Yeah.
But frankly, Leonard Roberts and Nick Cannon have so much chemistry. There are moments that I'm waiting for them to kiss.
Okay.
Like they really are the couple.
Yeah.
Frankly, in the movie. So like, you gotta have Zoe Saldana so that you can say, hey, this guy's not gay. And then there's what I see as the other secret weapon, which is Orlando Jones as Dr. Lee.
Yes.
Who is the rigid, moral, little uptight leader, a band leader. But, I'll speak for myself. Until Drumline, I thought Orlando Jones was just, the dumbass guy from Mad TV. Like, I had no idea that he had
this dramatic chops.
This dramatic, and in a role that frankly didn't have to be this good.
No.
Like, he really brought way more to this role than he had to.
Exactly. Yes, he did.
And then you have Nick Cannon, who, as his breakout role, before this, he was a comedian on, I think, Kenan and Kel. Like, he was in the Nickelodeon.
He was in a Nickelodeon universe.
He had his own little show. But you immediately understand why he's the star. Like, you immediately see that Nick Cannon is somebody who is a star. He is funny. He is charming. There are dramatic moments where I think he brings it. He's a good-looking kid. Like, everything about Nick Cannon works in this film, so that just as a cast, everything works really well. But I have to say, I think the real strength of Drumline is this celebration of the culture.
Yes.
Which, when you think about it, as you said, this is very loosely based on Dallas Austin's story. Now, something I just learned, because I always knew the Dallas Austin part, something that I just learned today was that this is based on Dallas Austin's story when he was in high school.
Yes.
It was as it was developing that they said it should be set in college. And then, the extension of college was it should be an HBCU band. And for many people who aren't familiar with HBCUs and certainly aren't familiar with Southern HBCUs, this band culture
is real.
But, one of the things that it has in common with Bring It On, how Bring It On, I think, introduced the wider world to cheerleading. I think for many people, and the kind of commentary and when we talk about people looking back and the legacy of this film, this is a film that introduced a lot of people to these bands and this culture and everything that goes along with that. And I think even in the midst of the creation of this film, Charles Stone knew that. because something that surprised me is this is a 2-hour film. And I remember thinking, I don't remember this film being that long.
Right?
Yeah. But then when you watch it, you realize conservatively a solid half hour of this film is performances. And one thing about Stone's direction is I think he captures the performances. I think he captures one of the things that he talks about is that he approached this film as a sports film, but the sports were the bands.
Yes.
And that energy that you get. And, you know, frankly, just the sheer skill and craft of these musicians. This is a wonderful testament to it. So much so that you read about Zoe Saldana, you read about Jason Weaver, you read about, of course, Nick Cannon. They actually did a lot of this stuff. Like they trained to do it. And you know, I saw an interview with Nick Cannon where he always wants to point out that by the end of the film, those are all far shots because that's him actually playing the drums.
Yeah.
And while Atlanta A&T is a fictional college, Morris Brown is a real college. And, you know, there was, you know, appropriately enough, a little tension with these actual musicians saying that these actors
do what we do,
are pretending to do what we do. So there was a bit of tension. So that energy that you feel, a lot of that is real between those two bands. So that ultimately, look, I love Drumline. You know, this is one of those reviews where I don't even know how much you're recommending Drumline, because if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably seen Drumline.
Probably.
And
I don't know. We have some younger viewers. Maybe they haven't seen it.
No, well, you're making a joke, but see, here's the thing. Again, I think Drumline has become part of this cohort of films that the kids watch.
Yeah, you know, you want to think that.
So, but yeah, I love Drumline. Yeah, absolutely.
I do like Drumline. I was actually really fascinated with returning to this film because I think I may have seen it twice in entirety.
In its entirety, because you've seen pieces of it. Right, of course.
But I remember, like, I was like you, like, this movie was 2 hours? I remember this man 2 hours. But it is, so much of it is performances, and so many, all of the performances are so expertly shot. You don't feel the time. Right. You know, you're wrapped in you want to see more of the performances. So I don't mind that. You mentioned the story. The story is paper thin. Like, you know, Charles Stone says it's basically a sports movie with the bands as the combatants, and that's basically what it is. And if you know a sports movie, then you kind of know the beats that it's going to hit for. Upon rewatching it today, I, like you, recognize the megawatt stardom popping off of Nick Cannon from the very first moment he's on screen, right? And like the shorthand storytelling that's happened in the beginning, because you're seeing him about to go, you know, leaving high school to go to college and confronting his father, and then being on the bus to go to college. And all of that happens within like the first 5-10 minutes of the movie. It's very shorthand. It's very well done, right? But I did find myself bothered a little bit by, this is a guy who in this school is basically getting over. From the beginning of the movie, really almost to the end of the movie, it's all about him getting over. It's all about him just wanting things his way and the hell with everybody else. And after a certain point, that started to get on my nerves. He does get a bit of a comeuppance. I
was about to say.
At the end, which actually I didn't remember, which I was like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense because, you know, spoiler alert for a 22-year-old movie, that, you know, there's a huge, you know, contest that happens at the end, the BET Classic,
Mm-hmm.
where the bands are going up against one another. And without necessarily giving the ending away, he's not a part of the BET Classic.
He is not.
And rightfully so, based on his behavior.
Yeah.
So I actually, watching that happen, I was like, okay, you've kind of redeemed that aspect of this movie for me. And while I was already kind of like in the bag, but it was like reluctantly, now I can be in the bag for this movie all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like him in this movie. I think Zoe Saldana is good in the movie with what she's given, but you're right. She doesn't need to be there. And the whole idea of this very self-assured junior being attracted, not so much just because he's a freshman, because, the heart wants what the heart wants, but because he's such a brash,
right,
and just like, comes across as like a totally uncultured freshman right from the door.
Right.
The fact that she would, within the first year, we're not talking about like, the end of the year, like before the end of the, like, probably first 6-7 months.
Yeah.
She's his girlfriend.
Yeah.
That didn't happen to me in college.
Right.
I don't know about you.
Look,
you know?
It's a lot of pursed lips and deep, hungry stares.
Exactly.
Between Nick Cannon and Leonard Roberts.
But to your point, they're back and forth, and you're right. Leonard Roberts is the secret sauce in this movie because as eye-popping as Nick Cannon is, he is 100% believable in his role. He's believable in that he could be the section leader, but he is also believable that he could be threatened by this, let's say, idiot savant of a drummer.
Right.
Because that is what he is.
He's actually an idiot savant.
So I can understand him being threatened by that, right? And what I appreciated is that, in lesser hands, Zoe Saldana would have also been dating Leonard Roberts. So
then he like takes him right.
So I like that none of that gets involved in here. Actually, the person that I thought you were going to say that kind of gets lost in the sauce, along with Zoe Saldana, is the character of Charles, played by Earl Poitier, who is the kind of chubbier, dark-skinned guy who plays the tuba.
Yeah.
And like he shows that he's got like a little bit of comedic chops in the beginning of the film, but then he disappears for a lot of the movie.
Right.
And like I thought he might be a little bit more of it. Yeah, they played up Jason Weaver, and I like Jason Weaver. But I just thought that he would be a little bit more play a little bit more of the role. You didn't mention him, but J. Anthony Brown shows up.
Makes the most out of
his moments, man.
Yeah.
And he plays his role.
Yeah.
He plays his position. But you talked about Orlando Jones.
Yes.
And as much as this movie is a coming out party for Nick Cannon in the films, this movie is a coming out party for Orlando Jones as well. Because it is because of this movie, even though it's a few years later, that you believe Orlando Jones when he is cast in
Sleepy Hollow
as the police.
You're 100%
chief.
Correct.
You're
because 100% correct.
This is when he makes that shift. This is why you believe him in that. This is why you believe him in American Gods.
And when he gets to American Gods, you are 100% right.
This is where the shift happens because before then, you're right. He's the Mad TV guy. He's a little slimmer. He's got the big eyes that he can't get away from that play well in comedy, but can come across as very soulful if you're playing it right. And he shows the man has the chops to play it. And it's a role that doesn't deserve to be this good. There's a scene where he confronts Leonard Roberts, Sean's character, about his,
Yes.
his antagonism towards Devin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a scene that could really have been just like chewing the scenery between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
But it is so grounded and real the way that he is just talking to him. Because at the end of the day, he's not mad at him. I'm still your leader. I'm still, in a way, your teacher.
Right.
And I'm still here to help make you the man that I see that you are destined to be.
Right.
And play my position in helping you reach that goal. And I think it's a short scene, but it is a beautiful scene.
Look, I talked about, Jason Weaver and his pledging storyline happening just right off camera.
Right.
One of the things that I've said for years about Drumline is obviously I didn't, well, maybe not obviously, but in case you wonder, I never played in a band in the HBCU in the South.
Okay.
But it looks real authentic to me, what's on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if this is how it works, but it looks like it works.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Lee navigating the college president and the alumni and those kind of pressures. I've never been the band leader of an HBCU band who has to deal with the board of trustees and the college president and the alumni, but it seemed like I was all in with this subplot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 100% because of what Orlando Jones brings to this role, which once again was you didn't have to do all this, brother.
Nope.
Like this is not like this is the Nick Cannon movie.
We just need you to show up.
We just
read
need
these lines real quick.
Right. We about to spend 20 minutes with them spinning cymbals and doing tubes. And boy, black people crack. Like the band, this the blackest shit. Like, okay, I'm gonna learn how to play an instrument. Okay, all right, I'm gonna learn how to play an instrument. I'm gonna learn how to play an instrument with a bunch of other people.
Okay,
I'm gonna learn how to play an instrument with a bunch of other people. Okay, that's not enough. Also, we're going to have some type of really complicated choreography.
I mean, but that's bands.
I mean, there's there's Philip Sousa bands.
To say Philip Sousa, this is Phil.
Who comes up with this?
This is Phil Sousa.
Right.
Phil Sousa.
Right. So we're going to spend 20 minutes with this. Orlando Jones, you don't have to, like, this is just a gift.
Hey.
Yeah. So.
It is a gift. I was curious, though, because I looked this up because, again, this is actually, and I was actually surprised by this, Charles Stone, who, for those who may not remember, some of our younger audience, may not remember the director Charles Stone, who grew to prominence from commercials.
That's right.
A Hall of Fame commercial. Was his Budweiser commercial from 1992. This was his film debut, his directorial film debut.
I thought this was his second movie.
Well, it's the second one that was released this year, but I think he made Drumline first, and then Paid in Full comes out that same year.
Comes out. Okay, all right. We should do Paid in Full soon.
But he actually is, it's good direction.
He's a good director.
He's very good direction in here. I mean, he's done music videos, so it doesn't it makes sense that he's going to get the music part right.
Right.
But his direction on everything else is very well handled.
I mean, the bands.
But just the fact of like the final scene where, while admittedly it wasn't his suggestion, but that final scene is actually between the two drum lines is shot almost as they would do old boxing films, where they just turn out the lights and you just focus on them. Right. That was smart and it was expertly shot.
Yeah.
But considering that, his filmography is very small.
Yes.
And I'm actually surprised considering how skillful he comes across. The work comes across in Drumline. He does Paid in Full in 2002. Then he, admittedly, he does spend a good bit of time on television because he is one of the directors on Friday Night Lights and also does the short-lived show Lincoln Heights.
Yes.
So which was very well done. But he does Mr. 3000 in 2004. That's with Bernie Mac.
Yes.
And then he doesn't really show up in movies again, really, until 2015 with Lila and Eve, which is the Viola Davis, Jennifer Lopez movie. So I'm just surprised he didn't do a lot more films.
I'm not surprised by that in the least. Paid in Full was not a hit.
No, but Drumline certainly was.
Drumline, you just said it. It made how much? It had a budget of 20.
And it made 58.
And it made 58. So it was a modest hit.
It made twice as...
I don't remember off the top of my head if Charles Stone was part of that article in the New York Times from 3 or 4 years ago.
Interviewing all the black directors.
But I think he has...
It might have been.
He has a textbook example career of what all of those directors talked about.
Yeah.
Where black directors do not get opportunities if you are just solid.
Yeah.
If you were just solid. Yeah, it does not surprise me.
And you're trying to take your original work around and just try and just get some funding for it.
And, you know, I think the thing about Drumline, as you said, it made 50 some odd million dollars in the movie. I think Drumline is very much a film that has gained prominence over the years.
Yeah, you got to remember, this is 2002. This is right in the heart of like the DVD, cable, you know, so it's there that it really becomes, you know, cements itself in the culture.
And to go back to something that I said when I started, if Drumline is the type of film that if it was lucky, it would be on Netflix.
You are 100% absolutely right.
Probably be on Amazon or one of the other streaming channels. And this is not an insult at all, because I think the real story that we're going to be talking about in 30 years is it would have been on Tubi. And I know that sounds like an insult, but there's quietly gold on Tubi. And I think that's going to be the real untold story. So, again, that doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah.
That's a good point. I forgot about that article. That was a good article. So, would you recommend that people watch Drumline?
I would recommend that people watch Drumline. I think there are films and you know, certainly we argue about this type of thing. Not argue, but we discuss over there the sort of black canon. And I think Drumline, just as a canonical black cultural artifact, works. Like I really do think this is one of those films that you like you said, you've only seen it twice, beginning to end, but I know you've seen bits and pieces. Because it's always on, it's always around, it's always there. I also think that this is a film that I group with a film like School Days or even something like Stomp in the Yard, where I love these depictions of the black college experience as a cultural experience. Like I love you know, I love I love the Jason Weaver pledging subplot. I love the depiction of the dining hall. Like there's this great moment where Devin says, "Can a brother just get a slice of pizza?" Because you know they're in the South and it's just all soul food. I love the party they go to, and you know, sometimes it's entertaining, sometimes it's irritating, where the Greeks start having impromptu
Step
show
shows,
in the
yes.
middle of the party.
Yes.
But these are moments where you're like, oh yeah, this somebody actually knows what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the performances. I think the performances are solid to oftentimes very good.
Mm-hmm.
The direction, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And you?
I would recommend Drumline. I
Mhm.
would. It's a despite its length, it is a surprisingly breezy watch.
You look up and it's over.
You look up that it's over, and I think the lack of or very thin plotting means that it's not a whole lot of heavy stakes in it.
Right.
There are beats that you've seen before, and even the antagonist is not that antagonistic. You kind of like see a bit from his point of view.
Oh, you absolutely understand. And I wanted to say this to you about him kind of breezing through the film. Structurally, I think it's a fascinating film. To your point, it moves faster than you think it does. It is a half hour before Devin and the other freshmen put on a band uniform.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It is at the hour mark that they figure out that he can't read music.
I know.
It just feels like
no, but there are hints to it.
Oh no! I mean, when he gets caught.
You gets caught.
Yeah, when he gets caught.
Right.
So he actually has a solid hour of kind of dealing with the repercussions of him not being able to read music.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend
it.
it. I would recommend Drumline. It's and it's the performances are they're great. They're good, great, some great. But the musical performances,
oh my goodness,
are fantastic. Now, I could have done without Petey Pablo, but I mean, he's but I think the world has forgotten about him, so I'm fine. Outside of that,
yeah.
Well, I will say I have forgotten about him. I won't say the world because I want people from Atlanta coming at me, But I'm sure he's still, playing at a hot chicken place someplace down there. But why would you say that, Vincent? Why would you say that?
I don't understand why you pick fights.
Why? Well, yeah. Why are you picking fights?
Why are we talking about Petey Pablo?
Much love. You my man. I would recommend Drumline.
Well, I guess those are 2 thumbs up. You know what? You talk about me. But every now and then, like if you'd have asked me what was Lynn going to go off on something, I would never have guessed Petey Pablo is in one scene. You know what I have in my notes?
What?
When he came out?
Who's that?
I said, Petey Pablo.
Oh.
And then I moved to my next notes. I was more interested in Free and
AJ.
In AJ.
From 106 in Park.
I was like, I remember
Where are they?
Free and AJ.
I know. They were on the set for 1 hour. They're just gonna film this one bit and we're out.
Yeah.
They don't interact with anybody from the movie. They may not even been on set.
Look.
We're gonna give y'all a backdrop. Y'all just read these lines real.
Look.
Where are they now?
I think AJ used to be on one of them shows like Entertainment Tonight or
Yeah,
something.
he was on. What happened to Free?
I don't know what happened to Free. She's doing well.
I hope so too. Anyway.
It's hot. It's hot. Got the lights.
It is hot. It is hot. Yeah. We are definitely glistening.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's our review of Drumline.